Level 4 and one of the identified best Asian university based on Quacquarelli Simon's QS University ranking for the year 2022. At this point, it might seem that there is a little left to say about student engagement, and that is the very reason why you are virtually why we are virtually gathering right now, because we all know that we are all currently grappling with the demands of virtual or online instruction, of face-to-face classes, or of blended teaching and learning. I was tapped by your university, particularly the Department of Business Studies, to share some tips in synchronous and asynchronous teaching learning strategies and keeping students engaged, especially for digital learning, especially that for the 21st century, we are there to implement blended learning and not a traditional face-to-face classes. Here in the Philippines, we're still in the pandemic, no? We are still coping with the increasing number of the COVID-19, no, illnesses or diseases here in the Philippines, and we are still on the pure online teaching and learning. But after this pandemic, if we will be going or downgraded to the new normal, we will not be going back to the traditional full face-to-face classes, but we will go with blended teaching and learning. I feel like I'm not the right person to share this because I am not that very expert on this, but I will just try my best in fulfilling the request. The Cebu Technological University, Argao, Cebu, Philippines experience. Self-check. What is the greatest challenge you've faced in your first weeks of teaching? How did you address these challenges? Think of what you have done so far and how it makes you feel. Individually, you reflect these two questions. Are you seeing faces of boredom in your students while teaching online? Maybe some of them left the mic open when commenting about your teaching style, or maybe your students are paying more attention to their game consoles than to the online class you carefully prepared, and even for face-to-face classes. Let's go over some of the main challenges you might encounter while teaching online and even offline. The online teaching and learning has many challenges. First is neophobia. We have experienced that one last year here in the Philippines when we had our class suspension, which started March 16, year 2020. Most of our old professors opted to retire because they are neophobic. The fear of new things, closely followed by technophobic or technophobia. That is fear of learning new technological tools. Teachers are complex humans in the sense that we are creators of habit, but we also enjoy challenges and adventure. Teachers of the last decade are not very comfortable handling technology as well as the net gen. This first challenge was definitely overcome within the first few days as we got used to the modalities of connecting with students and delivering lessons physically or face-to-face format. Assistants at hand in the form of school computer or information technology department help a lot. When everything was going smoothly, I faced internet connectivity issues even right now. That is why I opted, or I have chosen to go home, because we have stronger internet connection here in my house than in our university. We are currently experiencing internet disconnectivity. As my students were waiting, I could not connect. I felt cheated that day, and my colleagues or fellow teachers or professors in our university shared that they also had experiences such problems. Technology means glitches, and one has to learn to adapt to it. This is definitely one great hurdle for both teachers and students. I understood that one cannot rely completely on technology. Next challenge was the lesson plans or our core syllabus and what educational aids to be used in and how to incorporate them. There is an ocean of online sites with numerous interesting and exciting lesson plans or course syllabi at hand, plans, activities, and teaching learning systems in the internet. It is difficult to choose the right thing, but it is more challenging to mold it according to the needs or nature of our students or learners. One has to consider one's own comfort level too. Keeping in mind the invisibility and lack of visible body language using Microsoft Teams, or I have not even seen you, no, through your camera. No, it's all virtual. What is in my screen right now is my PowerPoint presentation, and I cannot even interact through the chat box, no, because I'm not very familiar with the features of the Microsoft Teams. I am very familiar with the Zoom. To gauge the mood of my students, my teachers, my fellow participants, have to rely on oral input and frequent feedback. Using MS Forms, Google Forms helped in creating exit cards or lesson logs while teachers were able to get attendance, interesting and difficult part on that day's lesson. As we started taking feedback, it was realized that the forms, your MS Forms, or our Google Forms can be used for assessing too. In our university, we have this Google Suite. We are not into the Microsoft Teams, no, because we are into the Google the Google Suite. In classrooms, students enjoy and remember the nuances of a teacher, the gestures and the expressions of all which add to the experience of classroom teaching. The major challenge then the teachers face would be to handle the lack of these things. Clear set of instructions is the need of the hour. Everything has to be clearly stated with no ambiguity, even if we are facing college students and not basic education or senior high school students or junior high school or elementary. But still, we need to have clear instructions for our students. Work-life balance has to be managed. Teaching in a school classroom and teaching from the comforts of our homes are different. When we had our class suspension, we are not necessarily, we will not be on physical reporting in our university. We are just in our respective homes to do online teaching learning classes. Managing the household chores as well as getting ready for online classes is demanding on the mental and physical stamina. But we teachers are superhumans, as I say earlier. We are managing and are making sure that our students don't lose out on their studies due to the extraordinary situation of lockdown. One more challenge that is effectively overcome by virtual classes, I feel, is handling a large body of students. In the regular classrooms in my school, I handle about 40. Whereas in the online classes, I successfully interact with more than 100 students at the same time. And this is, in fact, a great experience. We are now moving towards online formal assessment. A lot of discussion, planning, and practice is going on. I sincerely hope and wish that we overcome this hurdle too and get along on this virtual journey with our students. The students are great assets in our online journey. Being active netizens, they have taken to online teaching very comfortably. During the classes, they are a great help, no, guiding me when I get struck and helping me handle my technological hitch that I face. I am indeed happy for this role reversal as they teach me as well and I learn from them. A teacher must always be a learner. I feel that I have successfully begun my second inning as a teacher. These are our terminal outcomes, no, the general outcomes or general objectives for my presentation today. And they are to apply teaching and learning strategies based on best practices shared and to demonstrate understanding and its application on teaching learning based on student engagement practices. These are the general outcomes or what is maybe the term is objectives. Specifically, we are to determine teaching learning strategies according to experience-based tips, concepts, and principles the CTU Argao Cebu Philippines experience. And the second is identify principles and practices in keeping students engaged in the 21st century. Okay. I am still in the Microsoft Teams. Can you hear me still?
Yes, sir, we can hear you loud
Okay.
and clear.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm just checking if I am still around, no? Because I am only seeing my projected PowerPoint presentation here in my laptop. Okay. Online teaching poses a different set of challenges for educators and students, but collaboration and communication make it easier to stay connected and engaged. In the midst of the coronavirus pandemic here in the Philippines, many higher education instructors were forced to pivot their instruction online to allow teaching and learning to continue, and everyone was shocked. Even those netizens, even those who are tech savvy, because everything has changed. If you're a professor who teaches hundreds or even dozens at an institution with tens of thousands of students, this can present new challenges, especially if you are being asked to teach an online course for the first time. Thankfully, the move to online teaching can be painless even in times of significant disruption. The challenge, passive students. Unless thoughtfully crafted, online instruction can turn students into passive observers rather than active participants. Although these unengaged students may acquire the lecture content, they aren't able to apply their learnings outside of virtual classrooms. And there is no even follow-up, no? Unlike for face-to-face classes, we can do our follow-up with the learning logs that we do with our students. They might pass assessments and complete learning activities, but they aren't planning on using their new knowledge to make connections with previous materials or real-world examples. For learning to be effective, students must be engaged in the quality, breadth, and depth of their learning. Next, instructional strategy. In online learning environments, it's important to help students engage with the course material in a way that makes sense for them, providing them with ample, flexible opportunities to reinforce course concepts will ensure that learning material sticks with them even after they completed their final assessment. Especially when students are learning remotely, educators must recognize that students will only engage with course materials if they see them as valuable. And with digital courseware, online teachers can adopt or create uh, a customizable interactive textbook to extend active learning outside of the class meetings. In the past, we had our workbooks, but we converted that into digital worksheets in the time of pandemic. Even right now, we are still on the pure online, no teaching and learning. But in your university, I think you only have two program offerings offering online classes. But here our university, it's pure online teaching, even in our graduate school. We're not allowed to do face-to-face classes with the pose of the coronavirus disease here in our country. With inline interactive questions, it is easy to track completion and comprehension of course content. Another challenge, encouraging collaboration. Interaction among students is one of the single most important elements of successful online education. Collaborative engagement motivates learning and promotes a deeper and more critically aware approach to the subject matter. Unfortunately, collaboration is one of the most difficult things to achieve when students are not physically present together. The shift to online teaching and learning can be difficult. It can require restructuring course components using new pedagogical approaches, especially in college, learning activities and tech tools that may be new to you and your students. But even in our accreditation and with our university or agency governing the regulation of our university, the different universities in the Philippines, we are forced to implement blended learning even after this pandemic. We will not going back to the traditional face-to-face classes. The pandemic has surely caused a change in the usual teaching and learning practices employed in the on-campus classroom and environments in all universities and colleges in the Philippines, and even in our basic education, the elementary and high school, taken cared of by the Department of Education here in the Philippines. But that doesn't mean they must be abandoned altogether. By instilling collaboration, frequent communication, and active learning into your classroom, you can still ensure students receive valuable and engaging educational experiences regardless of where learning takes place. In our university, when I was still the Dean of Instruction, now I resigned my previous post, and now I opted to be the Dean of the College of Education, offering three education programs in our university. I formulated what we call the tech champs. The tech champs are the faculty who are tech savvy, who can be buddies with those old professors or professors who are not good with technology at all. No? The rationale is that with the landscaping of the 21st century education, we have to embrace the advent of technology. So the tech champs formation rationale. Technology, an extra or not even an extra, but a curricular endeavor in the 21st century education. So we have the tech champs in our university. These are professors who serve as frontliners for curriculum endeavors. They are professors who are considered to be tech buddies to not tech savvies. They are coordinators for our university's flexible learning system. Every time we do online workshops or webinars like this, so we have these tech champs who will be getting into the role, no, of being coordinators for flexible learning system. They are college or program facilitators in sharing flexible learning system best practices. And they are knowers, implementers, and evaluators in the implementation of the different technological tools. They are event coordinators for virtual activities in the college, the program, and e-bulletin providers. That is why every faculty in our university must be a tech champ, a champ in the digital classroom. Connecting with students is one of the most rewarding aspects of a professor's job. Some faculty hesitate to teach online, frequently offering the rationale, I want to connect with my students. There's just not enough interaction and engagement online. Faculty are not alone in yearning for this connection nga there should be a face-to-face classes. Students want it too. But whether we like it or not, in the 21st century education, we have to implement blended learning. There must be online and offline classes. When many universities rushed to provide remote instruction because of the COVID-19 pandemic, I learned on my synchronous experience to train faculty on pedagogical potential of platforms like the Zoom, the Google Meet, the Microsoft Teams, the Discord, the FB group. Training amidst this crisis gave me insights on what instructors new to synchronous teaching struggled with the most. Based on my experience, these are the strategies for optimizing the student experience in my synchronous sessions. We plan and organize in the context of OBE. OBE stands for Outcomes-Based Education. Organization and course design, or our syllabus, I think that is true also with your university. Is your lesson plan called course syllabus in your university? Am I correct? Your plan, the blueprint of your contents for the entire semester, is it called course syllabus? Am I correct? Participants, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are especially important in online environments. In designing our synchronous sessions, think about, or you have to think through the pedagogical value of each component, your strategy, placing our students' learning and experience at the heart of your plan, the design, the flow. Part of being student-centered is recognizing their limited attention spans and planning accordingly. When you choose essential contents, if you think that particular topic can be learned and can be read in the Google, in the Wikipedia, or in any site, then you delete that from your plan. Garvet 2014 notes that many teachers spend their virtual meetings doing other work, cooking, eating, or online shopping. Online students are now multitasking more than ever, balancing the extra demands on their time. Running long sessions, especially past 60 to 90 minutes. Same with this particular, I'm giving, I think, 1 hour in this presentation, increases the likelihood of competing distractions. And maybe some of the participants right now, for sure, you are multitasking. You are holding your cell phones, you are using your social networking sites, or visiting your FB, Twitter, or in any social media that you are currently in right now. Carefully review your game plan before each session and create a minute-by-minute schedule. Sharing an online at the start helps students to follow along, and you can save valuable time by opening all files you will need ahead of time. Second tip, you clarify your purpose, your norms, and your expectations with you and the students. While synchronous sessions may be new to some instructors, oftentimes students are also unfamiliar with this format. Even if they participated in synchronous sessions before, those experiences may vary greatly. Laying the foundations of why and how you conduct your class helps set expectations. Creating a shared class culture where students take more responsibility for their participation. I am using Zoom during the first week of the classes for my first year students in the teacher education department. I usually make tutorial on how to register in the Zoom, on how to open the Zoom, and how they can enter or join my class via Zoom video conferencing platform. That is prior to the week of start of classes. Record a video before your first live sessions explaining the very purpose. How will these sessions contribute to student learning and growth? Any equipment they will need, like for example, camera, mic, and your expectations of engagement. Clarify as such as, are these sessions required or optional? Okay. How does this fit into my grade or year level to the kind of students that I have? Is there an asynchronous alternative if I cannot join? So actually, in the online teaching learning, we have two. The synchronous, meaning the use of Microsoft Teams where you do the discussion and you need to have an automatic reply or interaction just like what we are doing right now. Or the offline, which is the asynchronous with letter A. Asynchronous session, you give activity sheets and not necessarily at that very moment they have to reply or they have to submit. That is why we have to clarify our purpose, norms, and our expectations. Third, okay, wait. Build community through faculty, student, and student-student interaction. Social check-ins creates community. If I only turn on my camera and audio right at the start of the class, that would be similar to walking into the door of my in-person right at the scheduled start time and going straight into teaching. Whether in-person or online, those precious minutes before and after class are critical for answering questions and connecting with students. Log in several minutes before class and greet students as they come. And you consider sometimes starting with fun virtual exercises. And that is I usually do with my online classes then. Synchronous technologies have evolved considerably from text-based chat rooms common in the 90s. In Zoom, breakout rooms can be used to create student-student interaction. I don't know if there are breakout rooms on platforms here in the Microsoft Teams, but in the Zoom, I am doing collaborative learning activities with my students. I do the grouping, and I can break the Zoom into smaller segments where they can meet by group. Just make sure directions are extra clear before you and send them to their virtual rooms and post in your learning management system, or what we call the LMS, beforehand any worksheets or instructions they will need. Zoom even allows you to float the room. Checking in, I can even hop from one room to the other in the Zoom for me to check if are they really collaborating, or if they really discussing the questions given at hand as they work. Students are often most surprised by breakout rooms, and they never expected live interactions with their peers in online learning. But again, the challenge is an internet connectivity. Tip number 4. Let's use technology, but be careful. Of going overboard, or taking an extra, or using many tools at the same time. Today's platforms are equipped with so many engagement tools. It can feel overwhelming, even for students. I suggest starting with polling, na i-poll in the Zoom, for example, as a relatively easy to use option, especially since instructions may already use them in the classroom. Polling can be an effective way to engage students with practice exam questions, icebreakers, or general pulse check. Or let us say, okay, kindly put your answers in the chat box. Um, Say yes if you're okay, if I am still around, or you may send yellow heart or red heart or any color of the heart which describes your feeling of the day. You rate your understanding of this concept. You build polling into your game plan as warm-ups or transitions between activities. Polling can also be used to create student-centered discussion similar to the use of clickers. And this is usually my synchronous session outline for first meeting. The documentation of start of classes link and attendance link will be given. And usually in my synchronous online class that I do with my students, I do the greeting and then an opening prayer. It's a canned prayer. It's a video. It's a recorded video. And then virtual class rules of engagement will be played, the session proper, that's the discussion, the closing spiel, and then the closing prayer. And usually I do 30 to 40 minutes of my synchronous session for my students, not more than an hour. If you want to improve your PowerPoint, you check ClassPoint. Now, I cannot do workshop right now because I am just given by the organizer 1 hour to have this presentation. So you visit ClassPoint, active class PowerPoint presentation. It's an add-on to your PowerPoint. You visit that particular site, make a screenshot and visit that site. There are tutorials for that, and it's a very good it's very interactive tool. With your PowerPoint presentation, you can have your just like a Mentimeter, just like a Jamboard. You can have an added value of your PowerPoint presentation. But actually, I'm not using it right now because it's just a pure lecture or talk. But if in workshop is included, I could have included the ClassPoint tutorial for beginners. But for those who are tech savvy, you can have that, and you can even apply that to your face-to-face classes also, not just for online classes. How to create an asynchronous e-learning strategy. There are a variety of benefits associated with asynchronous learning. For instance, not only can it offer learners the ability to access information and coursework when it's most convenient for them, but it also allows them to learn at their own pace and fully acquire the knowledge that is being provided before moving forward. The question is, how should you begin in interesting or how should you begin integrating asynchronous learning approach into your e-learning design strategy to create the best possible e-learning experience? And these are some of the asynchronous learning activities that you can apply in your respective classes. Okay? Create an online forum to encourage collaboration. Gone are those days that we do the traditional face-to-face classes. Whether we like it or not, in the 21st century education, we have to implement blended learning. We have to, even right now, at the moment. Do not just stick with the full face-to-face classes. We have to do the blended way, and that's the new normal way. Okay? The main challenge that arises with asynchronous learning is that learners often lack direct access to instructor and peer assistance. However, adding an online forum and or social learning elements such as Facebook and Twitter, I even have group chat with my students. We have stream in the Google Classroom where we can do our chatting. Allows you to encourage group collaboration. Learners can then tap into the knowledge and experience of their peers or communicate with the online facilitator or what we call the leader of that particular forum, the student leader, while still studying the core content at their own pace. To illustrate, consider posting a question or comment on the board to spark online discussion. I can even have my recitation, non-verbal recitation, in my group chat or in the messenger where they are actually answering to the posted question via messenger and post their opinion or answer. This also gives online facilitators the opportunity to view learners' participation, track their progress, and even get feedback about the e-learning course. In other words, it offers the best both worlds. Second, set expectations and learning objectives upfront. Before the learner even begins the e-learning course, expectations and learning outcomes should be discussed. I did, di ba? Prior to this presentation, I presented to you the terminal outcomes and the enabling outcomes or the specific outcomes. The syllabus or your e-learning course outline should clearly define what is expected of learners, the deadlines that must be met, and what skill sets will be developed throughout the e-learning course. This will help to keep the learners on track and also motivate them to become active participants in their own e-learning experience, given that they will have a clear idea of the benefits involved. Third, be consistent with your email communication and or updates. It's essential to keep the e-learning course up to date and to remain consistent with the communications, including communication methods in the e-learning course outline so that the learners know how to reach the online facilitator should they run into a problem and set expectations for when they will receive a reply. For example, you can let them know that the online facilitator should respond within a 72-hour time frame or that they prefer to chat via email. Also, ensure that the links are active in your e-learning course and that the information is still relevant. If you come across an issue, send an email to the entire class letting them know that you are aware of the problem and that you have remedied the situation. Okay? Tip number 4, develop an e-learning environment where learners can discuss and interact. Blogs or vlogs are invaluable tools if you are taking an asynchronous learning approach, and I even require them to create TikToks related to a particular content in my class with my education students. They give learners a place to address any questions or concerns that they may have and offer online facilitators the ability to interact with learners and share important updates. It may also be wise to have an update page within your learning management system. Whether we like it or not, the university must purchase a learning management system. If ever we will have another pandemic, then the university will be prepared for pure online teaching and learning. Or if your place or country will be facing a calamity, for example, or catastrophe, no? And then physical classes cannot be possible. With your learning management system of your university, there still a continuity of teaching and learning because you are prepared with the learning management system. This offers them the support they need without making the instructor feel as though they are tied to the learning management system round the clock. Most importantly, it's essential that the learners feel comfortable about posting and interacting on the blog or the vlog or the forum. They should feel encouraged to offer their input and opinions and should be reassured that their thoughts and ideas are valued. Tip number 5, include resource links within your e-learning course. An essential element of an asynchronous learning strategy is reliance upon online resources. You may want to consider placing relevant resources links in the e-learning courses itself so that learners can have access to important sites and articles that they will help them to better understand the subject matter. For instance, if you feel that there is a webinar that they may be useful in a particular e-learning course, then hyperlink that within the module so that the learners can quickly and conveniently find it online. In many respects, this will allow you to create a more immersive and engaging strategy. Tip number 6, offer interactive elements to make the e-learning course more engaging, including podcasts, videos, and audio presentations can enable you to design asynchronous learning courses that are exciting, engaging, and informative. These tools also appeal to a variety of different learning needs as opposed to text-based materials just like our course pack or our workbook, our digital workbook. You may also want to consider including games and scenarios to boost interactivity. Design reality-based scenarios and games that allow the learner to see how their newly acquired skill sets or information directly applies to life outside of the virtual classroom. This is not only a great motivational tool, but also a means to improve overall knowledge retention. In my class, I'm using Quizlet, Quiz Mentimeter, the poll in the Zoom, no, as part of an to showcase interactive elements in my synchronous classes. 7th, appoint an online facilitator or a student leader to monitor and guide the e-learning experience. Though a synchronous learner is not instructor-led, it may be helpful to appoint an online facilitator or at very tech-savvy students who can guide the e-learning experience and offer assistance periodically, who will be answering related to technology-oriented ng mga questions, no? In your group chat or messenger. I usually do that. I choose an online facilitator. Okay, class, if you have questions on how to open or how to join the Zoom or how to open the links in my Google Classroom, then you may have Miss Anna, our online facilitator, to monitor and guide you for the e-learning experience at its best. It's important to keep in mind, however, that the facilitator should not necessarily be an active participant in the process, but an individual who sparks discussion and encourages learners to interact with the core content and one another. An online facilitator could moderate the online facilitator, ensuring that the discussion remains on topic and ask the important questions that help them to move the discussion along. In essence, an online facilitator should help to keep the e-learning course on track and offer invaluable advice and guidance to those who may need some additional support. Okay? So, how do we keep our students engaged in the digital learning? Okay, but before that one, so let's do some shaking of our body first, no? I am sitting here, so I need to move a bit. So before we'll be proceeding to another content, keeping students engaged in the digital learning. So please extend your arms. No? Okay, your neck circling around. Okay, we need to move our body once in a while, especially that we are in the virtual world. With the spread of the new coronavirus, the colleges and universities in the Philippines and even around the globe are shutting down and prompting professors to move their classes online. It has been a challenging period of time for all teachers, especially here in the Philippines, in which we are not rich as to technological capability and availability of technological resources and materials, even in our university, because we are a state university. We cannot deny the fact that all of a sudden, and because of something that is totally out of control, students are learning remotely, and both educators and administrators are in the permanent search of new tools and path to face challenges they have not faced before. Getting learners engaged online can be real struggle, very, no? It's the struggling of keeping our student engaged in a virtual world, for digital learning. Even today, in this webinar, I'm not saying physically my participants. I'm not saying you on your cam, because I am just saying a projected PowerPoint presentation here in my laptop. And it's hard to connect. It's hard to engage. Keeping your students engaged and motivated is not an easy task. That has always been the case. And now they are learning from home and not even in a physical classroom. You have control of the challenge becomes even bigger. But how can you keep your students happy, engaged, and motivated during a global pandemic that clearly affects their mood? Well, by finding the right tools and learning environments for them to genuinely progress. Students interacting with each other. One of the musts of every classroom all over the globe is having your students interact with each other and work together. This is the only way in which teamwork ability will be developed and strengthened. But how can teachers and educators have their students really interact with each other when each of them is learning from a different place? Well, the answer is being creative. You can ask your students to form teams from their own specific houses, upload STEM challenges to a new TikTok profile they can create for their team, or having them participate in an online coding competition as the cyber robotics coding competition. No? And there are lots. Another technical issues. Unfortunately, experts say technical issues are bound to happen in an online only environment. For example, while attending one of your classes live through video conferencing like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, there are moments when our computer will suddenly shut down and we need to restart the device. Oh my God, hoping that it will not be happening right now. There are also moments when our Wi-Fi is spotty. The solution? The most important step is to advise students to stay in touch with the professors and inform them about what's happening. Experts say they will hopefully understand and be flexible about the situation, perhaps even recording class sessions as a backup. Distractions and time management. That's another issue. That's another challenge. While studying from home or wherever students may be, there can be more distractions than usual, especially with family and possibly younger siblings around. As a result of these distractions and possibly having additional responsibilities, time management becomes more challenging. What's the solution then? Encourage your students to try to think about building a schedule, figuring out when they are going to do what they're going to do, and then sharing that with other people at home. However, remind your students that they should still prioritize their physical and mental health even if life is busier than usual. Staying motivated. Given that students may not be attending class at a set time on a physical campus, finding the motivation to get started on coursework can be difficult, experts say. According to experts, when you don't see your home as a space of work, it's a kind of struggle to get in that mindset. What's the solution then? In addition to creating a daily schedule and finding a productive workspace, it can also help to simplify focus on the ultimate goal. At the end of the day, Look back on the day and check mark off all of those items that you have completed. Look, knowing that you did will help to motivate you as well. Another set of challenges. Understanding course expectations. The sudden switch to online learning has left some students confused about some course requirements for the rest of the semester. They may wonder, for instance, if a final group presentation is still happening given that students can no longer meet on campus, or if they need to complete labs for science classes. Students may also wonder whether their classes will have to do or will have live lectures through video conferencing like the Zoom or the Microsoft Teams at the same time on a certain day, or whether students are expected to learn the material on their own time. This will usually happen when the teacher has not decided yet of the learning modalities to use. What is then the solution? The solution? Experts say students should be proactive in asking their professors questions about course expectations, whether classes will be held live, various understanding on the school professors, and discipline. Lack of in-person interaction. The lack of in-person interaction with both instructors and classmates can be particularly challenging. The, the adjustment can be particularly difficult for students taking classes that are better suited for the face-to-face format, like those with science lab components, who now watches the physics laboratories in a digital recording and then take a quiz afterward. I consider myself as a visual learner as well, but I prefer to play around with the materials as well as converse with my other students to understand the material better. The solution? Experts say students should take advantage of the tools at their disposal. While not ideal for all learners, the best alternative to actual face-to-face interaction may be video conferencing programs like the Zoom, like the Microsoft Teams, like the Google Meet, the Skype, or the FaceTime. Talking on the phone with classmates or a professor is also an option. 7. Adapting to unfamiliar technology. Given the transition to online classes, we are now slowly adapting to some digital tools. I think all of us have had to learn to use technology that some of us have never heard of, and some of us may have used just a little bit of. The solution? Use the resources available through the school. It's a good thing that the university and the respective departments we belong have taken initiatives. A short training before the school year started, or it has somewhat helped us grapple with the new demands of the school year. Just like with the initiative that your department, the Department of the Business Studies, is currently implementing right now. It's a very good in-service training for the core faculty members. Thank you to the department. Thank you to the university. Uncertainty about the future. The sudden switch to online classes or blended learning for the entire semester in some cases has caused anxiety and raised questions among students about their academic futures. Even we don't have face-to-face on-the-job training because our university has not formulated a face-to-face on-the-job training for our students or graduating students. Excuse me. Some are already dropping out, and some were considering taking the semester off if the university continues to stick with online classes. There are many students in our university who are dropping off. While others are concerned about upholding a full course load while juggling the family responsibility. For the design the instruction, students need to equip themselves with technical proficiency to decode the course material. There are 5 common problems faced by students in e-learning classes and which they need to be solved through proper initiatives for the students' future benefits. And one of which is adaptability struggle. Switching from traditional face-to-face classroom and face-to-face instructor training to computer-based training in a virtual classroom makes the learning experience entirely different for our students and even for our teachers. Their resistance to change doesn't allow them to adapt to the online learning environment, whereas it takes time for them to get accustomed to course management systems and the methods of computer-based education. While passive listening and notes taking are expected in the traditional classroom online discussions, or creating a web page demand springing into action. Students with a traditional mindset find it difficult to adapt. However, they need to accept the new learning circumstances with an open mind and heart. Understanding the benefits of e-learning and even discussing them with their peers may change this mindset and better prepare students for online class. Okay, technical issues. Many students are not provided with the high bandwidth or the strong internet connection that online courses require, and thus fail to catch up with their virtual classmates. Their weak monitors make it hard to follow the course management system, and their learning experience becomes problematic. And these are some of the experiences of our students here in the university. Moreover, most of them leave off campus and find it difficult to keep in tune with the technical requirements of the chosen course. Some of them don't even own computers and seek them in learning resource centers for technical assistance. The only solution to this problem is knowing exactly what kind of technological support they will need for a certain course before enrolling in it, as well as properly equipping themselves for the course's successful completion. Computer literacy. Although our students are generally tech savvy, they are born in the digital age, and thus able to manage computer well. Lack of computer literacy is a major issue among students today. Many of them cannot operate basic problems such as Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, and therefore are not able to handle their files. Furthermore, many students find fixing basic computer problems troublesome as they have no knowledge in this area. However, technological proficiency is a must for following online courses, as it enables the students to manage their assignments and courseware in an organized manner without struggling. Basic courses in computer literacy enhance students' knowledge in this field or area. Having fundamental knowledge of computer hardware would help them participate in online classes without interruption and hindrances. Time management. It is a difficult task for e-learners as online courses require a lot of time and intensive work. Furthermore, whereas it is mostly adults who prefer web-based learning programs for their place and time flexibility, they rarely have the time to take the course due to their various everyday commitments. A regular schedule planner would be a significant help to these learners, as they could even set reminders for their courses and assignments. And last challenge is self-motivation. Self-motivation is an e-learning essential requirement. However, many online learners lack it, much to their surprise. After enrolling in distance learning courses, many learners fall behind and nurture the idea of giving up, as difficulties in handling a technological medium also seem insurmountable. Students need to find the motivation to follow the new educational trends and also properly equip themselves for future challenges in their education and careers. Only a positive attitude will help them overcome the challenges in e-learning. Though this is hard to practice, students need to understand that this is necessary in order to reap the e-learning benefits in the future. With these challenges, It's the reality. The internet has started reshaping education. There is no going back. The traditional classroom has to be transformed. The web-based education commission, many universities and colleges may not survive by the end of this decade if we will only be implementing the face-to-face traditional classes. Okay? So what does engagement mean to you? There are lots of views or perspectives, but how to be engaged in e-learning. Why is learner engagement important? Learner engagement is more than just the trend or the trendy bells and the whistles you see on your FB feed. It's about tapping into your human emotion. It's about keeping learners motivated. It's about encouraging the entire process of learning from start to finish. Research continues to support the connection between high student engagement and information retention, the highlighting the positive effect on cognitive development and future outlook on personal learning. And it makes sense. While the growth of online learning increases accessibility for point of need learning, it also adds new challenges of ensuring learner engagement and information retention. It is not the performance of teachers that causes students to learn. Rather, it is the performance of our students that should be assumed cause of learning, according to Philip Chilecki. Therefore, teachers must possess the skills necessary to design coursework and activities that the students themselves find engaging. So, how do we know when a student is engaged? There are 4 components that are always present when students are engaged. And these 4 components are: the engaged student is attentive, in the sense that he or she pays attention and focus on the tasks associated with the work being done. The engaged student is committed. He or she voluntarily, without the promise of extrinsic awards or the threat of negative consequences, deploys scarce resources under his or her control, time, attention, and effort to support the activity called for by the task. The engaged student is persistent. He or she sticks with the task even when it presents difficulties. Fourth, the engaged student is connected. He or she finds meaning and value in the tasks that make the work. The main point here is the main difference between the students who are engaged and those who are not is the way they respond to the situation or tasks at hand. Which picture represents you with student engagement? Picture number 1. Are you like that? Are you confused? Are you experiencing headache? Or picture number 2, you are at the peak of a mountain saying it's a successful implementation? Or are you in the third picture where that particular professor is struggling with a big rock being pushed upward just to have an effective and efficient implementation? Write your answers, your numbers. Are you in the 1, 2, or 3 in the chat box? Are you experiencing headache, or is it successful, or is it struggling? As to student engagement, who are you then as a teacher advocating student engagement? What do we need to know as teachers that will help us design lessons that are engaging to our students? Avoid some of these common pitfalls to increase your chances of delivering high engagement instruction. In the new paradigm, it is the best thing to do is to become a constructivist professor. Let your students construct their own knowledge, build their own knowledge, and the role of the teacher is to be a guide on the side and not a sage on stage. That is constructivism. You cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him find it within himself. The last content that I will have is the tips for keeping students engaged in an online learning. Can I still be heard? I want a confirmation.
Yes.
Okay. Are you still okay there?
Yes,
Are you
sir.
still okay? Okay. Tip number 1, create a high quality videos. Even in the face-to-face classes, if you play videos, no, it's better nga it's customized, it's personalized. In our digitized world, using video in your e-learning program is a must. Videos appeal to both visual and auditory senses, creating an engaging learning experience that few other e-learning experience can provide. But not only video equates to engaging. Extensive time and effort must go into creating meaningful learning videos that people want to watch. They must be well scripted, beautifully designed, and generally entertaining for our specific end user audience. If you're creating your own videos, make sure you plan accordingly. Taking e-learning video a step further, some programs allow for interactive elements to be embedded directly into your video. Rather than passively viewing a video, learners can interact with the screen. Usually, if I do asynchronous classes, or if I am not into synchronous classes because of internet disconnectivity, no, or there is a technical glitch in our internet connection here in the Philippines, I usually make or record a video using and then drop that in the Google Drive, and then I'll produce a link, a Google Drive link for my students to reach out and see that recorded video, and I'll be sending activity sheets through the Google Classroom. And you may also create videos through CapCut, Zoom, Flipgrid, or Filmora. These are just mga simple video making sites or software or app, no, a technological app where you can easily manipulate. So better explore them in the YouTube University. How to use Filmora, Flipgrid, Zoom, or CapCut in producing a particular recorded video. Design compelling videos or visuals rather. While content is always the top priority in any learning program, design still matters a lot. If your e-learning program feels old and outdated, it's a sure sign that your audience will instantly disengage. Toss on your creativity hat and aim to create modern, engaging visuals in the form of clean charts, graphics, illustrations rather, and videos. PowerPoint presentation. Right now, I'm using Canva in my presentation. And you can also have Slides Go. Explore Slides Go, and get PowerPoint templates. Very attractive, very visually appealing. Slides Carnival. Have it in the Google browser. Just type Slides Mania, Slides Go, Slides Carnival, or you may visit postermywall.com. Explore them. Slides Go, Slides Carnival, postermywall.com, Canva, Slides Mania, or Prezi as a PPT software where you can produce very visually appealing PowerPoint presentation. Record a crisp voice-over. Audio in e-learning is often an afterthought, while many courses focus on glitchy visuals and interactive gamification. Audio tends to get left behind. Well-recorded video over audio is a critical component to increasing engagement in your e-learning program. The popularity of podcasts and audiobooks is steadily on the rise. This is a meaningful realization that learners crave quality audio content. Hearing is one of the core senses of human beings. Remember that. With this knowledge, we must allocate sufficient resources to create an enjoyable and engaging listening experience. Just think of how fast you turn off a YouTube video if the audio doesn't meet your requirement or expectations. Even in synchronous sessions. So I have this particular app, what we call the Crisp, where it cancels an unnecessary background music. No, actually, surrounding me right now, there is a particular construction with annoying noise, but I think it cannot be heard by you because I am using Crisp. So it's an app. It's a noise canceling app. Can you hear a construction sounds there? Can you hear them? Unnecessary voice or sounds?
Oh, no,
No,
actually,
no,
no.
sir.
No,
No?
unnecessary, no. No.
Okay. Because I'm using a crisp app. If I'm not using it, I think there are unnecessary sounds that you can hear. No, but because of the crisp, it's KRISP. It's noise canceling voice app. Then you can, that's a very good way of recording something. Next, keep everything on brand. Yay! In general, it's best to avoid using a mix of too many colors. Stick with 2 or 3 of your client's top colors or students or learners' colors. And if you have a little flexibility, consider integrating colors that have been shown to improve learner engagement. Be thoughtful about color choices in every asset you build. Images, infographics, videos, logos, headers, and beyond. Next, consider your font choices. This should also come directly from your students. If the student has no preference, make sure you use 1 to 2 fonts that are simple and clean. Usually I use Tahoma or serif fonts, no, which are always a quality choice to make it easier for learners to read. Next, add meaningful interactions. Testing learners through recall is the most effective way to achieve long-term comprehension. Plus, it makes your e-learning program much more enjoyable. Meaningful interactions such as video, embeds, quizzes, flip charts, or discussion questions are simple ways to increase learner engagement. Another option is creating a game-based e-learning, also called gamification. When used properly, competitive games can be overwhelming, powerful for boosting engagement and retention. Use humor or other elements of surprise. Most online interactions have a reputation for boredom. As soon as online learners see a cheesy stock image of a man wearing a suit, they have already checked out, disengaged over it. Try conducting a deeper analysis of your audience. What would make them pay attention? What would evoke emotion? What would make them laugh? While humor should never distract from the learning material, thoughtful injections of relevant comedy can be monumental in boosting engagement and enjoyment. Try gathering ideas from social media. Browse Facebook or trending videos on YouTube and view what users are sharing and liking on these online platforms. While most content is used purely for entertainment purposes, they often provide deeper insight into the human psyche of interest and engagement. Keep your lesson short. Trim the fat, cut out the flop. This means that many students will have limited time and may have limited interest in the subject material. To combat these barriers, make sure you keep your lesson short. A good rule of thumb is to keep self-paced learning courses to under 45 minutes or less. To do this, make sure to edit your text and voice over scripts relentlessly. Break up modules into a smaller bit-sized chunks that are easier for learners to digest. Especially when it comes to video, aim to keep each video under 5 minutes. Use relevant analogies and examples. Analogies are one of the most powerful tools in the world of learning. By using a relevant comparison of 2 items, learners are forced to analyze one item and transfer that analysis to the other time or to the other item. To do this successfully, learners must have a firm comprehensive grasp on both items. They must have learned something. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Is your e-lesson simple enough? Could someone with zero knowledge on this subject be able to follow along? As an instructional designer or e-learning developer, it can be difficult to answer these questions as you are deeply involved in the content and material. Odds are the information could be simpler. And without the help of a human instructor, that most in-person training courses have simplicity in e-learning should be an ultimate priority. Virtual online hours, mental health check-ins. Since learning has shifted online rapidly, it is important to consider the mental health of you and our students. One way to stay connected and check-ins is by offering virtual office hours where students can drop in and ask questions or just chat about what's going on in their lives. The more supportive we all are in the challenging time or in this challenging time, the better the outcome will be in the long run. Use Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, or another web conference platform to check in weekly with your students. Build your online presence. Although this is not the beginning of the semester, or it is the start of a brand new learning adventure for you and your students, take time to continue to emphasize the peer-to-peer connection among your students. Think differently about assessments. Flexibility is the key when teaching in an online setting, and sometimes traditional assessments are not necessarily the best way to engage students. Think about other creative ways to assess your students' performance, including the use of multimedia tools such as VoiceThread, group research projects, and recording audio submissions instead of text-based assignments. These types of activities allow students to get creative and also promote critical thinking skills, so it's a win-win for all involved. Try out a new tech tool. Now is a great time for self-discovery and being open to using new tools. Google digital education tools as your colleagues or reach out to your instructional design team for support. There are a variety, there are some, or there are lots of tools that you can use, of quick and easy educational tools you can use in an online space that are engaging and fun to use. Make it meaningful. In aiming for full engagement, it is essential that students perceive activities as being meaningful. Research has shown that if students do not consider a learning activity worthy of their time and effort, they might not engage in a satisfactory way or even disengage entirely in response. Establish positive teacher-student relationships. High-quality teacher-student relationships are another critical factor in determining student engagement, especially in the case of difficult students and those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, according to Frederick's 2014. When students form close and caring relationship with their teachers, they are fulfilling their developmental need for a connection with others and a sense of belonging in society, according to Scales 9091. Use icebreakers. Try community building activities that engage or that encourage camera use. For example, prompt students to find the largest yellow thing in your house that you can safely bring back to the camera as a variation to try within reach. Pass the pen is also a playful approach to building community remotely. Play games. Rock, paper, scissors works well in a remote classroom setting, as do Pictionary and charades, and explore games in the Zoom, which includes options that work for different ages. Ask students to suggest alternatives. Your students might have insights into other ways to participate and share their learning visually. Many educators have found that students will share videos on TikTok, Facebook, or private YouTube channel or Instagram activities. Your students might have insights into other ways to participate and share their learning visually. You have to sustain students' motivation and interest to keep your students engaged. May they be online or face-to-face classes. Teaching, it's all about engagement. No? It will be always about engagement. Will digital learning make traditional classrooms obsolete? We must remember that technology is just a tool to enhance performance and optimize outcome. But the role of a teacher in person's life is not limited to teaching math, literature, and history, of language, of business, of finance, of accounting, and etc. A
Doctor, sorry to
teacher
interrupt you.
plays an integral part in the growth of a child by helping in building his character and motivating them. As
Doctor,
artificial,
we are having
yes,
10 minutes. We are
yes, sir.
having only 10 minutes left. Only 10 minutes
Again,
left, doctor, please.
can I still be heard?
Last 10 minutes left, doctor.
Last.
10 minutes, please.
Okay, okay. So as artificial intelligence takes up more and more jobs in the future, we will need more people who can form meaningful human connection and can lead people. These are skills that cannot be learned online. With the rise of technology, teachers can streamline their processes to a large extent and may use classrooms for building social, interpersonal skills through various application-oriented projects. Thus, blended learning creates an ecosystem for learning which provides advanced solution to the problems faced by both teachers and students. It is up to us to make use of the tools and science and choose a smarter life. Technology will not replace great teachers, but technology in the hands of great teachers can be transformational. Do you know about the three bricklayers? No, who are asked, what are you doing? The first bricklayer said, I am laying bricks. The second says, I am putting up wall. The third says, I am building a cathedral. What's that? The story of the three bricklayers is also a metaphor on the power of purpose, where a cathedral builder demonstrates a personal expression of purpose that transforms one's attitude and gives a higher meaning to his or her work. Another term for purpose we use in ministry circles is calling. For the first bricklayer, building the wall was a job. For the second bricklayer, it was an occupation. For the third bricklayer, it was a calling. Think and act like ants. What is the symbolism of ants? Its symbolism is letting you know that you should consider that all good things come with time and effort. In other words, the message is to work with diligence, with conviction, and work with others to forge your dreams and turn them into reality as professors in this university. Despite their tiny size, these little spirit animals are immensely tenacious, resilient, adaptive, flexible. They have a superior strength of will and accomplishment and come even in the smallest of packages. Alternatively, it may be time to consider your role. Concentrate on your specialties and make sure you're making the most of your natural gifts. Also, ant symbolism insists that you must remain aware that all things are connected. Therefore, this reminds you to think about how your contributions to your university, to your family, and day-to-day life fit into the larger picture. Are you just layering bricks? Or are you just filling up and constructing walls? Or are you building a magnificent cathedral? In conclusion, no matter how small your task or your input, it is still essential. As academic frontliners in the Department of Business Studies, let us help one another in building a bigger, a stronger cathedral for our students with integrity and dynamism. I hope we have determined the teaching learning strategies according to experience-based tips, concepts, and principles, and identified principles and practices in keeping students engaged in the first century. Again, thank you, Mr. Manikandan Satyamurthy of the Accounting and the Finance at the Department of Business Studies here in the University of Technology and Applied Sciences, Sultanate of Oman, for this invitation. Indeed, my great pleasure of sharing the best educational setup that Cebu Technological University, Argao, Cebu, Philippines can offer, not just to your university, but to the world. Again, thank you so much, and I am willing to answer questions related to my presentation. Thank you, everyone. This is my material, no? So you can get your material in my Google Drive link. Okay. Any questions? So I'll be sending the Google Drive link of my PowerPoint presentation And it's actually in the chat box.
Hello, doctor. Can you listen?
Hello, doctor. Wonderful. It was amazing, doctor. Thank you.
Mr. Manik, no, Manikandan, can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Manikan.
Okay, you can be heard, sir. Professor.
Yeah. Okay. So, Dr. Fitzgerald, thank you very much. I hope there is nobody. If anybody has any question, you can raise your hands.
Excuse me.
Yes.
This is Satish Kumar from Chennai.
Okay. Please
Good afternoon,
continue.
doctor.
Okay, good afternoon. I cannot hearly clear the voice, no?
All right. How are you doing, doctor?
I'm very fine here in the Philippines and
right,
very motivated in the implementation of blended learning in our university, especially in the College of Education.
Yeah. My question is that have you just tried all these methods in the university? In the beginning, were you doing it as an error? Okay, trial and error method, right?
Yeah. Based on experience, no, there are loopholes, there are weaknesses for these technological tools. But as I progress with the implementation day by day, I make it enhanced and improve. In the first year of my teaching for pure online, there was this struggle. I'm struggling a lot. And I'm not just only the one who is struggling, but even my fellow professors in the university, when we had our class suspension and educational shutdown last March 16, 2020, because of this coronavirus disease or the COVID-19. But we had this in-service training. We had a workshop. I attended free webinars, which can be found in the FB during our class suspension. There was no work at all. There was no physical reporting. But I anticipated that there will be pure online teaching and learning, but I don't know what are the tools to be used. How can I do the synchronous and asynchronous classes? But what did I do is, every time I see free webinars in FB, in the Facebook, in the social media, in different social networking sites, I registered myself and it's for free. And I learned a lot about how to improve PowerPoint presentation, how to use Zoom, how to use Google Meet, exploring the Google Suite, how to make PowerPoint using Prezi, using Canva, using different learning management systems, no, like the Odilo. The Odilo is the LMS that the university is using. So how can I drop activity sheets, and how can I do asynchronous classes, and the use of this learning management system, the use of Quizlet. Quiz is actually, the last part of my presentation was an activity using Quiz is, but I think we are running out of time, so we have not implemented the last activity, but that it's Quiz is, no? It's a live quiz, it's a game show where students will be interacting based on the presentation or content presented by the teacher and then answering them. And there is this top 1, top 2, and top 3. And the teacher can give us extrinsic award as part of an extrinsic motivation of our students. Again, by experience, we experts started as, or usually start as a beginner. No?
Yes.
We commit mistakes. There would be very bad synchronous session because of internet connectivity, because of our technological capability, but because every day it's an opportunity for us to improve in learning new technological tools. No, I am not that very tech savvy, but I am forced to be tech savvy because that is the demands of 21st century education. I tell you, if you are experiencing or if you are implementing right now full-time face-to-face classes, better opt for blended learning. No, because that's the picture of 21st century education.
I do agree with you, Doctor. Thank you very much for answering my question, and I'm very glad to meet you here and happy attending your session. Thank you very much.
Well appreciated, Professor.
Yeah,
Any other
fantastic.
question?
Nothing, absolutely nothing from me.
Okay. Thank you very much, Satish.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
So we are running short of our time. We have another, activity at 12 o'clock. So, Dr. Fitzgerald, I am very pleased to conclude this activity. Thank you very much for your enlightening tips for synchronic and asynchronic teaching. This unprecedented pandemic has brought a lot of miseries and bleak moments, but it has also shown us new horizons to survive in the bitter circumstances. We as human beings, as the crown of the creation, have risen to the occasion and faced these challenges with utmost courage and determination. As Dr. Fitzgerald has said, some of the teachers suffered from technophobia, but we should learn to use technology for effective teaching. As Doctor also has, told us about various online resources that offer help to use them for teaching and learning, but we should learn how to use them at the right time and for the right purpose. For online teaching, clear instructions, right planning, effective implementation are of prime importance. Uh, we know that there are many challenges, like challenges of technology and students' lack of motivation and participation. But most of the teachers have discovered new allies to continue their journey towards Beacon House of Learning. So now the world is opening again, but we as regenerated teachers will try to continue using blended learning even in our face-to-face teaching. But one thing we must keep in mind, as Dr. also has suggested, that technology is only a tool. So we as human beings have to consider the human aspect also, and try to engage our students by creating interesting activities and using all those resources which are helpful for motivation and engaging students. So thank you, Doctor, once again for your amazing and pragmatic teaching tips. So Dr. Manikandan, now it's over
Yeah,
to you.
yeah, Professor. Thank you so much for all the participants who have been, extending the time for last 90 minutes with our, resource person. He has opened the, new normal way to get into the learning and teaching. So thank you so much, Dr. Gerald. It was really fascinating and incredible inputs you have shared with the participants. They're really enjoying with you for last 90 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well, the University of Technology and Applied Sciences, for the invitation.
Yeah, great, great. It's really awesome. Shall we wind up the session, Professor Muhammad?
Hello, Tamil, Dr. Tamil. Do you have
Yeah.
a certificate for the doctor?
Yeah, we'll be making certificate. We'll be sending through mail.
Okay, okay, not presenting here.
Great,
Okay, so then we can wind up. Okay, thank you.
great, great. Thank you so much.
In your Apple Music library, you can ask me to play a radio station or ask for your music on a different app.
Hello, doctor. Hello, sir. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, how are you, doctor?
Very fine. Thank you. How are you too?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you. It is nice to meet you today. And what is the bright faces that we see this day? And it is useful and in our session today. We receive it. Thank you very much. But I have a notification here. I don't see your PowerPoint or your lecture. I don't see anything. Only my screen is black. I don't know what's the problem. Have you
Mm,
have you show? Have you make showing or not?
I projected the PowerPoint. Have you not seen my projected PowerPoint, participants?
Exactly.
I
How can
have
I get?
projected my PowerPoint presentation. Was there a problem in the projection of
No,
my PowerPoint
may interrupt
presentation?
actually.
Yeah.
No,
Were they projected?
there wasn't any problem while you were presenting. It depends on the internet connectivity the participants have
Okay.
had. It differs
Okay.
actually. Some of you might not have had the proper internet connection. You might not have seen the proper slides or blurring kind of stuff happening. This is due to the weak internet connection, and it happens at times when we use technology.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Francis. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
So,
thank you. Thank you very much.
can you send this to us in our emails or not? Could you send this?
I have given the Google Drive link. I already dropped